Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
All
56.
Fix my cord here.
Episode 56. Thank you, Bill Fesh.
Shout out producer Bill.
Yes, he's keeping us on track every week here inside the arena with everything going on off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. And boy, oh boy, there has been so much going on this week that we're a little bit behind schedule in our record schedule. But when we're recording right now, there's a lot to talk about in terms of the Pac-12 and Memorial Stadium and the FIFA Club World Cup. We're going to talk about Memorial Stadium, the future of Seattle Center in particular, with a brand new stadium again on that site. Coming up a little bit later here with Marshall Foster, who is the Seattle Center director. But boy, you've been all over the place this week too.
This is one of those weeks where this is why you love the job. It's like anytime you're tired or whatever, you're like, well, I'd rather be doing this than being stuck in a cubicle somewhere, because, you know, Monday it was the FIFA Club World Cup. We'll talk about that again in a moment. Against PSG. How cool is that? Then Tuesday it was the Storm against Caitlin Clark. And then, of course, it was back to business as usual after that with a fun feature I did on the Mariners. Now they change over from baseball to the Post Malone concert that was actually on Thursday night earlier this week, and then they have to switch it back over for baseball Monday. That was a cool process, seeing that entry. So it's like, yeah, been all over the place, but that's what makes Seattle sports so much fun. There's always something going on. And here we are Friday. It's, you know, when we record this, you've got the NHL draft going on and things like that. So it's always something new and something different going on in Seattle sports.
Yeah, and Lenny Wilkins has his statue unveiling. I'd encourage you to go to KOMOnews.com or the YouTube page to watch a piece on Lenny talking about his life and upbringing in Brooklyn and to Seattle, and why he stayed in Seattle and why he decided to be such a philanthropic person the way he is. That's, again, off the ice, off the court, off the field, and on KOMOnews.com.
When people come to Seattle, they tend to stay here.
Yes.
I wonder why.
Yes. There was big news in the world of the Pac-12 this week. It does look like it's going to be officially announced on Monday, but they finally have an 8th football member. The Texas State Bobcats.
Yeah, relative newcomer to the ranks of the FBS, as they call it, and I don't know what to say about this one. Am I jumping for joy for fans of the Pac-12? No. I don't mind going outside the traditional Pac-12 footprint if you were adding maybe somebody with a little more cachet. I understand getting into Texas. I understand the hotbed and football and all of that, but you know, maybe this is the opportunity for Texas State to become that. That's where I'll leave it.
Well, a school with 40,000 enrollment.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a buy low effort here by the Pac-12. Doesn't sound like they're going to have all the revenue that the other schools are getting in the Pac-12. But I think anybody who has followed this is well aware of the story, how the Pac-12 basically fell apart. Washington State, Oregon State picked it up off the scrap heap, kept the name, got a bunch of money from the other schools to keep it going. And they've added these other schools. They've added Gonzaga. Going to be a great basketball conference. And then also this past week announced their first TV and digital rights deal with CBS. That I think there's a question on if it's too similar to their current deal with CBS and how the other partners may be waiting to see who else now enters the conference. But it does get the Pac-12 into Texas. More than a decade ago, the Pac-12 wanted to get into Texas with Texas Tech and Texas A&M and Texas. Instead, they get Texas State. And I think there's some other questions, too, about scheduling. And with football in particular, do they need to add a 9th member so they don't have to play a home and home every year? So that's going to be one of the things to watch. But for the Pac-12, for fans of Washington State and Oregon State in particular, Gonzaga, this is a big deal this week that it appears they have some finality, because Texas State, in order to get out of their current deal, needed to have that done by Monday.
Right. And not only that, it gets the Pac-12 the number right, to being official, remain an official league, right? Remember there was the 2-year grace period, then they had to have the 8th football team. So you take care of the house cleaning, like you said, low risk. Does it move the needle a ton in 2025? No, maybe in 2035 it does. But I will say this, it gets you to where you need to be. And who knows, maybe, UNLV looks like they're holding out for now in the Mountain West, but maybe they realize the Pac-12 is a better home for them. Maybe it allows the Pac-12 to not have to force their hand. Like, hey, you add one school, low risk, high potential, and maybe you can add somebody in your footprint down the road a little bit later on.
Seen some speculation, maybe Memphis, UConn. Yes.
That'd be a little crazy, but
St. Mary's entering all as affiliate members, or in UConn and Memphis case, potentially as football only, just because of that scheduling issue.
Yeah, well, think with UConn, it's the same thing as Gonzaga. Now, UConn does play football, Gonzaga not, right? But you're talking about the $20.5 million allocation, the new the schools can pay directly. Well, obviously cool, like Gonzaga is in much better shape for that, right? For their basketball program anyway. UConn, I would imagine, will put more towards basketball than most because they have football, but it's independent and it's not in a major league, so to speak, right? So maybe that would be a good ad. You know what? All the rules are out the window when the Atlantic Coast Conference has got Stanford and Cal. Why can't the Pacific Conference have a school on the Atlantic Seaboard?
Yeah, why not? And why not? We talk about what we like to talk about every week.
Yeah,
the four corners. What's good? What's bad? Off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. Sometimes people cheer. Sometimes they play air horns.
My graduation on the show when I get to hit the buttons.
Yes, you push all the buttons you want.
What does the purple one do? Oh, that's when we start. What about orange? All right, let's recue it. Okay, so first base, my positive, and I know it's stuff we've been talking about. I got a couple here, and the first one, I think you were going to talk about this a little bit too. I was very impressed with the turnout for the FIFA Club World Cup. Are you talking about that in a minute?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that what I want to get to with that, I'll let you get to the specifics on it, is Seattle shows up for major events. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, 50,000 for that. For an event that people were, we were talking about ticket sales were low, right?
Yeah.
Look at how the All-Star game went without a hitch a couple years ago. The Frozen Classic, the Winter Classic, I should say, with the NHL playing on New Year's Day. Listen, I was so happy to be at the Sugar Bowl that day, so it was a good reason to miss it. But part of me is like, I still wish I could have seen the spectacle that was that matchup in person, of course. My point here is this, and of course we have the World Cup coming next year, which is the granddaddy, so to speak, if you want to go to college football bowl references. But what that showed was, Seattle sports fans, when it's an event, we put on our best show. We do. Everything with that went off without a hitch. The FIFA people that I talked to were so happy about it. They were pleased with, our coverage of it, of course, but they were pleased with the turnout and things like that. And it's just the latest in a long line, right? You think about all the things that have happened in recent years, think about the arrival of the Kraken and how even through the ups and downs, the fans have showed up for that. So my positive is that everybody listening, Seattle sports fans, another major event comes through town and you nailed it. You knocked it out of the park. You made Seattle look great. You got one more next year and a lot more to come. When you talk about the other things to come, the rugby and everything, that's 2031. Yep. And so, let's just we're on a streak here and let's keep it rolling.
Well, hint, I'll save my FIFA discussion for when we round third and go to home.
Oh, you're well, I will say I was, again, pleased with the fans. 50,000 for the last two matches that included the Sounders. The Inter and CA River Plate on the last match on Wednesday, that got a little chippy. You were there, I think?
I was there.
Yeah, so passion, man. I like it. I was seeing the Argentinian soccer jerseys all over Seattle. Really cool stuff in that perspective.
I will say this. That was a fantastic match because the players were this was not a friendly.
No.
These are guys who are playing in the World Cup, had history, did get chippy with a couple of players, especially getting off the field in the last 10 minutes of that match. The crowd was amazing. The River Plate fans in particular waving their flags. It seemed like half the lower bowl was River Plate fans.
They were all over Seattle Center.
You didn't see a lot of blue. I was walking on the street on Occidental and First after the game, and there were a couple of fans jawing back and forth in Spanish and Italian. I mean, it didn't feel like necessarily a Seattle soccer match. It felt like people had come from other parts of the world specifically for that game. I had been on a couple of planes in the last week. Had noticed people wearing jerseys coming into Seattle So I think there's a fair amount of people, and we'll get data on that later down the road, that came to Seattle just for games like that one.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what else is good? I will go with Memorial Stadium. Again, you're going to hear later in the show Marshall Foster, who is the lead at Seattle Center, the Seattle Center director, talking not only about what has now happened with Memorial Stadium, but the future of Seattle Center as well. They finally did it. They finally got to a point after years and years of talking where the Seattle School District and the city of Seattle and private investment as well have started the construction unofficially or officially of a new Memorial Stadium. So they had a groundbreaking this week, threw around some dirt near the 5-yard line, and basically have closed off that stadium now to the public. There was a final goodbye on Thursday, the 26th, that people were able to take part in and take some final pictures, but that building is going to go away. There's now going to be a major construction project there that'll last until 2027.
Right.
But Seattle's going to get a state-of-the-art building on that site for the first time in 80 years.
Crazy.
80. I mean, that is a site that's been used for sporting events for 100 years.
Yeah.
Civic Field. And then those stands have been there since 1947. It was time. The memorial wall will be preserved, but everything else is going to go away. And boy, I've covered it for a long time, as you know, and been through multiple mayors and watched different agreements that have been signed. They're finally going to do it, and a $140 million project by 2027.
Well, you said it. It's got history, the best location. I know I've mentioned on this show before, I'd go to cover high school games. It's just like, bam, the Needle's right there.
Right.
And it's, obviously, we can walk there from KOMO. It's just prime real estate. It should be used in that way, and I'm glad everybody got together and made it happen. And we've talked about the potential for that site. I can't wait to see it because it's the perfect spot, and it's really, you know, with Climate Pledge being redone the way it is now, you got Memorial Stadium. Really, Seattle Center, man, it's like a renaissance, you know.
Yeah, and you'll hear again from Marshall Foster talking about just that in just a second. But what don't you like this week?
That the Pacers lost the. You know, and listen, I know Gary Payton on this show a few weeks ago said, like, hey, you know what, we got to let that go to an extent because we're getting our team back. And I'm hoping in some sort of karma kind of way that, you know, the Sonics curse being broken means that the Sonics, it's because the Sonics are coming back, which we've looked at the evidence for over a year on this show, and it appears that that's more likely than not. It's certainly not definite or official or anything like that. But it doesn't mean we have to like who won the finals, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, so was rooting hard for the Pacers. Obviously, I think I ended every sportscast. We were talking about that with Go Pacers. So listen, happy for Chet Holmgren just because he spent a little bit of time at Gonzaga, but that's kind of where the extent of it ends.
Well, I'll give some props to ESPN, who clearly got the memo.
They did. No, I noticed that.
They got the memo from the NBA on how to describe the championship. It was the first championship in the OKC era.
Yeah.
There was no mention of Seattle, no graphics about the second title in franchise history. We didn't hear Adam Silver nor Sam Presti on a stage talk about the franchise being in Seattle. There was a clear break that was trying to be that the NBA was trying to make there, and ESPN, after showing graphics and talking about it during the course of the NBA Finals, really stayed away from the Seattle, Oklahoma City story. And I think, you know, looking at that, that's perhaps the NBA tipping their hand about what is to come. And maybe Oklahoma City as well, and Clay Bennett saying, "Hey, we want to own this as Oklahoma City."
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So a little bit more on the NBA coming up in the Supersonic Minute as well in just a second. I just want to round out the four corners as we head home. I will look at the FIFA Club World Cup objectively. There were some great crowds, like I just mentioned, River Plate and Inter Milan. The Sounders getting 30, 50, and 50 for their matches there at Loom. And the Botafogo match in particular, I thought was low attended.
For a Sunday, too.
And for a Sunday, it was Father's Day, but that was a night game. The others were odd start times, 3 o'clock and noon, and still had 50,000. I think, you know, don't blame the Sounders, blame FIFA for how that whole ticket situation was unveiled. I think that, you know, from what I hear locally, there wasn't a lot of input that the local folks were able to give to FIFA about how those tickets were sold, which meant there was a staggered sale where season ticket holders for the Sounders could buy the corners, and those ended up being more expensive than what you could buy on walk up on match day. That was weird. The fact the team store wasn't open, the fact that little huts were open to sell certain merchandise that was sold out by the time the game even started, the fencing that was further out, and I think we're going to see that during the World Cup as well, that the entry point was far outside Lumen Field. That meant more roads closed down, more parking issues, people trying to get around. That was tougher. FIFA, I would hope, and I think the World Cup sells itself, but I think FIFA, I would hope, learns from this 4 years from now when they try to do this event again, that if it's in a market like the United States that hasn't necessarily hosted something like this before, they're going to need to take a different strategy to pull it off and sell out some of these stadiums, because they did have problems with that. None of those games were sold out.
No, and actually, to your point, I think that, while I was applauding the Seattle crowd, yes, sure, it could have been bigger, but also if you look at some of these other venues, where certainly there wasn't a local tie-in, there wasn't a local team like we had with the Sounders. I was only in a couple markets, right? If you think about LA and Miami as well, the crowds were in other cities. I think Seattle showed out, certainly in a relative term. But we had said it. This was kind of, even though the Club World Cup is prestigious in its own way, this was kind of the dry run, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully they do. Conversations I had, we both have our people we were talking to. A lot of it was like, okay, this is what works. This is what doesn't. Let's try this. And listen, there's no dry run next year, especially when you have a round of 16 match here, a Team USA group play match, 6 total over the course of a month. It's on next year.
Yeah. I mean, not only a dry run for the World Cup, but a dry run for FIFA and having an event like this. They've never had an event like this. That was part of the marketing issue to a local audience. What's the FIFA Club World Cup, and how is that different than the World Cup? So that'll have to be fixed in the future. But I can just tell you, walking around, attending these matches as a fan and going through that process, it was definitely a different experience, and there was a lot of security.
A lot of security. I like that.
A lot of security.
Yeah.
And Seattle Police, Homeland Security, it was definitely a different vibe than what we've seen at Sounders matches.
Right. Yeah. And in that end, I didn't hear of anything.
Didn't hear of anything.
So that's good.
And I can tell you, I was in the Chinatown International District shooting a story a few hours before one of those matches. They were packed because of all the people coming in, and it was on that Inter Milan River Plate game. So it was, I think there were a lot of people in town. We'll get data on tourism later. Hey, we've talked a lot already, but we should talk more about the Supersonic Minute, right? Isn't that the
oh, you got it.
That's the green button. The greenish button. Okay. So we are still waiting to hear potentially from Commissioner Adam Silver in July about an expansion process. But since I think we've last talked, we may have only briefly mentioned it, the LA Lakers are getting sold at a valuation of $10 billion. And there's been some writing this week about how that may impact expansion. Here we go again, just like the Celtics the year before. Tom Friend of the Sports Business Journal has a piece that just came out that you can read in the Sports Business Journal. It is behind a paywall, but I do want to talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
Saying the NBA's offseason begins with debates about expansion. And he talks about the Lakers and how it could potentially impact this discussion. Reading now, while Silver says he doesn't think the Lakers number affects expansion, others believe it at least tilts the discussion. The young, financially savvy owners are going to look and say, wait, I get a $400 million direct payment today. I'll take that money and do something else with it, said a team executive, especially if it's guys who don't plan on owning a team forever. And by the way, give one of these owners $400 million cash, that funds your mixed-use entertainment district, or at least gets you the cash you have to put up for it. The rest they can take a loan. So that's kind of the plus side if you're a Seattle fan. The other side, though, is one of these team owners, one of the governors said expansion has never been broached in a BOG session. Again, that's supposed to happen in July. There may have been some side discussions amongst people, but in a board meeting, zero discussion, said one governor. So if the clock truly starts in July with the first discussion, that's a long process. I don't think a year from now you have expansion resolved. But that doesn't mean the debate will be tame. A bevy of governors likely will be uninterested in league expansion because it would mean splitting up their media rights money 2 more ways. And now each NBA team will receive a hearty $142 million national TV money around New Year's Day 2026, which will help, especially if they're in their second tax apron or have a weak local TV deal. Not to mention the $142 million figure rises 7% annually over the next decade. Some owners and reports say the Knicks, James
Yeah,
Dolan,
I was going to say his name.
we have talked about it on this show, is one of them, don't want any of their money touched. So
2/3 have to approve, right?
Right.
Yeah.
23.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he finds, if he finds just a few owners who believe what he believes, potentially that is a hurdle as well. But it's going to be interesting just if this story in July turns on the Lakers sale and the valuation there, and oh boy, that would be something.
That would be something. Well, that's what this show is for, and we're having those conversations, and we're gonna dive into it, especially in July. But have faith. Hey, look at A-Rod's now an owner of the T-Wolves. He wants to do Seattle solid, right?
Well, and I think you're gonna hear some more discussion about the Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans, what kind of local TV media rights deals they have, what their season ticket sales are like. That those two teams' names come up in this conversation a lot as well.
Sure.
Well, Memorial Stadium.
Love Memorial Stadium.
It is happening, as we said, near the top, and Marshall Foster is the director of Seattle Center, and really, I had a chance to talk with him after the groundbreaking about what this means for the big picture. What is next at Seattle Center? How will this stadium project fit into everything? And you're going to hear what he has to say about that right after this.
Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Opening this August, wake up to breathtaking Cascade views, enjoy world-class dining, and play your favorite games. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
All right, Marshall, what's the significance of the groundbreaking here?
This is the start of the next chapter of Memorial Stadium. So we will be building a brand new stadium for the community, for students, starting on July 1st. So that's what we're doing today, is getting it started.
Is it going to look the same?
No, it is a completely different idea. So imagine this stadium is integrated with the Seattle Center campus. You can walk from the International Fountain out to an event in the stadium. You can basically, all these walls come down, and this is a state-of-the-art modern stadium that is part of Seattle Center, serving public school students, bringing all those great concerts and other events back. So it will feel very different.
It feels like the city and the school district has been talking about this for 20 years. Why has it taken so long?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the key thing that changed everything was that the school district got $66.5 million in their Bex levy a few years ago because they knew they had to replace this building. It was built in 1947. That became the foundational funding. City put in another $40 million. We have a whole bunch of Seattle Center facilities that are integrated with this building that are getting replaced. And then our partners at One Roof raised $30 million. So together, you have the funding to do something incredible here, which is what changed.
What do you envision in terms of events here? It's not just high school sports. There's other things that may involve the center campus, other professional events. I mean, what do you expect to be hosted here?
So I'm guessing, a lot of people remember great music here as part of Bumbershoot, concerts that we've had here over the many decades. We haven't been able to have those here for years because of the condition of the building. So all that comes back. Summer concert series, Bumbershoot, all those types of events. Obviously, Seattle Public Schools will be having all their incredible events, the Metro League Championships. And we'll see. We don't know about professional sports yet, but we know that there's interest out there. And especially now that people are seeing that we're actually breaking ground, I think you're going to start to see new ideas for how this stadium can be a place for professional sports as well.
Just about a decade, 15 years ago, there were a lot of old buildings here at Seattle Center. There was Key Arena was old. There were spots, the Fun Forest even before that.
Yep.
And people were questioning the future of Seattle Center. How big of a piece is this in the Seattle Center, and what's next?
Yeah, so this is basically the first step of a major initiative to reinvest in this whole campus. So we're working basically on a strategy to start saying, how do we rebuild all the core parts of the campus, much of which goes back to the World's Fair, so that every time you come here, you have an incredible experience, not just at Climate Pledge Arena or at McCaw Hall or at the new stadium, but the core grounds and the International Fountain all feel state-of-the-art and modern and safe. So that is something, that's kind of the next chapter of what you will hear us talking about, is where Seattle Center goes from here.
You mean there's still stuff from the World's Fair in 62?
Yes. Would you like me to walk you around? I could show you some things, especially the innards of some of these buildings that truly go back to the World's Fair. What's amazing is our team here, with our engineers and our carpenters and our plumbers, they keep it all going, but it's at a point where, I mean, some of these systems are like 63 years old. So it's time for generational reinvestment, you might call it.
Yeah, there was talk here about tearing down the walls, particularly on the south side there, which still has barbed wire from, it seems like, the war era.
Yeah.
There's now talk about taking down walls at Pacific Science Center, is there not?
Yes.
To open up the campus.
So, I mean, you're basically going to, we're starting to talk about all the major elements of the campus. The Science Center is the next chapter after Memorial Stadium. We have a great new partnership with them to open up the courtyard and preserve the historic arches there, and we'll be doing that, as well as revisiting the International Fountain, the Fisher Lawn, and the major pathways that connect our campus. People walk in from Harrison Street over here, and it's broken asphalt, it's curbs are broken, infrastructure is worn down. It's time to reinvest, and so that's kind of what the next chapter for Seattle Center is all about.
And before that, you have another big event next year with the World Cup
there's
parties.
just a small thing happening next year.
How are you preparing for that now, a year away, with 30,000 people expected to be on the campus every day for a month?
Yeah, so we are doing a bunch of different things. The first order of business is public safety and security, so we're working on a whole system of things like bollards, upgrading all those safety systems to make sure that pedestrians are safe on our campus. We're working on lighting and a very in-depth plan for how the fan celebration will actually be hosted in terms of stages, viewing areas. It's going to be an incredible experience. Frankly, it's probably been since the World's Fair that we've done something at the scale of what we're going to do next summer.
So you're saying there's nothing going on at Seattle Center?
It's nothing at all. Yeah. No, this place is hopping every day of the week. I hope you saw did you see our hot air balloon festival we did last Sunday? We're also just experimenting. We're trying new things to see how we can get people out for free public events. We had 6,000 people come out. We had no idea if we were going to get 500. So there's a huge, I would say, like, kind of pent-up demand for great experiences here. People want to be in public space together. We're here to make that happen. And I think this is sort of the start of a new chapter for Seattle Center.
This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. This August, luxury awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snocasino.com. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
So there you have it. It sounds like the grand vision here is Memorial Stadium opens up to the International Fountain on the west side, and then knocking down walls at the Pacific Science Center as well to open up that part of the campus on the southern side of the campus, which is also where Climate Pledge Arena is. And there's a lot of discussions about trying to open it up, especially in advance, as you heard Marshall say, of the World Cup events that will be held there. We're talking about 30,000 people potentially a day, right near the International Fountain, how they're going to get in and all that. So there's a lot of talk about opening up the space, and it is interesting how about 15, 20 years ago, people were saying the Seattle Center is done.
Sure.
And there's been all sorts of new construction there and people coming there for multiple reasons.
I love where we're located at KOMO.
Yeah. We just walk right over, folks.
Heck yeah. Walk over to Storm, Kraken, you name it.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, final buzzer?
Well, I would just say, like, to that point, everything we've talked about in this show is why Seattle sports fans are in a really great position. Are we in the perfect position? Of course not. We want those Sonics back. And as you talked about, there's going to be some stuff there going on in the next couple months. But I'll say this, pretty awesome time to be a fan of Seattle sports. I can't wait to see what happens in Seattle Center these next 5 years. I really mean that, with hopefully the NBA joining the Storm and Kraken in that arena, and hopefully, not hopefully, but Memorial Stadium looking the way we all know it will soon. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait to see what happens.
And the final thing I'll say is shout out to Andrew Manier, Montlake Futures. They shut it down. They're shutting down their NIL now that all the rules have changed in college athletics, and he has been a friend of the show, friend of KOMO, and always been willing to talk about Husky sports.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
All right, David Lee, take us out.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.